Gotta grow up, gotta get up to spiritual maturity. Cannot linger, no stick figure, that is my priority. Gotta listen to the ones with the high authority. It's the fivefold, yeah, the fivefold to get me where I need to be. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in and joining me on the Teach Me to Obey radio broadcast. I am your host, Anita Lewis, and with me once again, I have Adina and Kriston Aymer, both Level 3 students at Kingdom Academy. Adina and Kriston, I welcome you once again to the Teach Me to Obey radio broadcast.
Hello, everyone. It is indeed, as usual, a pleasure to be here with you, sharing with you from our knowledge of the fivefold ministry on this radio broadcast.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. I am glad and honored to be here once again with you guys on Teach Me to Obey.
Okay. Thank you, Kriston, and thank you, Adina. So we are continuing on our sharing. We have been here for quite a number of weeks, and we have been sharing with you on the fivefold governmental leadership team. This comes out of Ephesians 4:11, which reads, "Now these are the gifts Christ gave to the church, the apostles, the prophets, the evangelists, and the pastors and teachers, the fivefold ministers." In previous broadcasts, we spoke about the division of labor, where there is not one person leading an assembly, but the fivefold leadership team. Today, we are focusing on the pastor or the shepherd. Generally, in the past, once you are called to ministry, people assumed that it was to be in the position of a pastor. And therefore, these people were sent off to be trained for that. If you are called to be a minister, you must know exactly which fold you are called to in the fivefold ministry, whether it is the apostle, the prophet, the evangelist, the pastor, and the teacher. It is not automatic that once you are called to ministry that you are called as a pastor. And this has been a grave mistake that has been made in the body of Christ. I can recall when I went to Bible school, we had where I was trained and where I would have received training in Bible and theology. And many times that we would have been doing ministry and we were in school, people just automatically assumed, oh, you're called to be a pastor because you're attending Bible school. And this is an error because I know that there were so many persons who were there who were not called to be a pastor. I remember one time we had a ministry focus event and there was someone who went out to do ministry and she was supposed to be the speaker. And when it was her time to go on the stage to speak, she just couldn't do it because she had stage fright and she was as nervous and all of that. But even as time passed and we continued in school, you could see that this was not her calling. Yes, she was in Bible school, but she was not called to be a pastor. It was just not her calling. It was something else, but not a pastor. Now, in the 5G network, the apostles, they govern, the prophets, they guide, the evangelists, they gather, the teachers ground, and the pastors, they guard. The pastors are graced to God. We would have mentioned before that each minister has received grace from God to carry out their function. I would have just noted the other ministers and what it is that they're called to do. And as we would have mentioned in previous broadcasts, the 5G network, all of them, what it is that they're called to do begins with a G. So I'm going to repeat that again. The apostles govern, the prophets guide, the evangelists gather, the teachers ground, and the pastors they guard. They have more time to schedule with the believers dealing with their issues. Now, let us be honest. On a normal Sunday or Saturday morning and the pastor would be preaching from a pulpit, The pastor doesn't have time to be dealing with people's issues, your personal issues. You come into a building, you have issues, and you go just the same with the issues. That is not the forum for counseling. That is not the forum for them to be dealing with issues. And many times people's issues are unmet. The issues are not addressed. They go in one way and come back out the very same way, even sometimes more miserable, because they're not attended to. And the pastors or the shepherds, this is their responsibility to have the one-on-one counseling with the believers to be able to address their issues. Kriston?
Yes, thank you very much, Shepherd Anita. And I can note the difference, what I used to be in versus what I'm in now in terms of the fivefold ministers. Before, when you have that one-fold minister, they don't have the time to sit down. They never had the time to sit down and speak with you concerning different issues that you may have. And a lot of the times, what I found was that even when I would ask, for like meetings and stuff, you're too busy to deal with me because that's not even your main focus, And when it comes to the fivefold ministers now functioning as that team, there is that time that is allotted for me as a believer to sit and deal with life issues, because all believers are human beings that have life issues. And for too long, what has happened is that, the pastor is so focused on doing pulpit ministry that, they don't really function in the lives of the believers. So the believer would be young and married like myself and would have different issues that, that needs to be worked out within that young marriage that needs, tend to solidify the marriage. And what I experienced was that there was not that time allotted and place or emphasis placed on my needs at that time, being a young married believer. And what I'm experiencing now in the fivefold grouping, the fivefold ministers, namely the pastor, the shepherd, is that there is time. And whenever there's an issue, they're always available. And I could call at any time with any issue, and they make the time. And not only make the time, but they come up with solutions to help, with that. And it goes even beyond that. It goes all the way to my job, my work ethic, my physical appearance in terms of the way, my grooming, the way I carry myself. There's a major difference that would come up, right, between, in terms of the two.
Thank you so very much, Kriston, for sharing that with us. We are here and we're talking about the division of labor which exists in the fivefold governmental leadership team. Kriston noted that the pastor would have been too busy and did not have time to be able to meet his needs, to be able to do that counseling. And that does not exist in the fivefold governmental leadership team. No, because the greatest role and function in the lives of the believers is the one-on-one counseling that is needed. The pastors or shepherds, they bear the shepherd's heart of Jesus for his flock. That is, they are the ones who are closest to the believers. They are the ones who are closest in knowing what it is that is going on with the people. They deal with the problems. They bring encouragement. They're there for them practically. The pastors guard the sheep. There is so much that we can say concerning guarding the sheep. But next week, we are going to go in deeper in terms of explaining all that this guarding the sheep, what it really means, because we don't want to bring words to you without explanation, so you can understand practically what the guarding actually means. But the pastor has the role of the one-on-one counseling in the life of the believers. They are close. They're not afar. They're not just on the pulpit preaching down to the believers or preaching to the believers and have no relationship. No, there is relationship that exists between the pastor or the shepherd and the believers. Adina?
Thank you, Anita. And you're totally right in what you're saying, and even Kriston with what you're saying. The one-manism as we know it, the reason for me, I think, that they don't have the time sometimes is because they're too busy taking on the other roles.
That's it.
The other roles. So they're playing the apostle, they're playing the evangelist, they're playing the other roles, and so that they're too busy not focusing on their main role, which is pastor/shepherd, which is to guard, to look after their sheep, to care for their sheep, to reach out for their sheep when their sheep, is in desperate need of attention. And so the fivefold that we know it, that we are living under, that is not the case because it's a team at work.
Yes.
And so I find for me that pastor, our pastor basically is there for us, to reach out for us. I can speak for myself, reach out to me. I have, for instance, my studies doing and that sort of thing, and I would get a phone call, how are you coping, how are you getting along, have you submitted your assignments on time, that sort of thing. Even in my ministry calling, my pastor would be there for me to help me along, help me, counsel me in my role as my fivefold calling.
Thank you very much, Adina, as she mentioned about the pastor being too busy doing the function, carrying out the roles of the other ministers in the team. That would happen where you have the one-fold, and we are talking about the fivefold, that the pastor is not too busy. The pastor is never too busy. No, they must have time for the believers. They have time to sit down. They set up appointments. They deal with the personal issues, and it is not one where they wait until someone has a crisis. No, but it is the continuous thing with the new model pastor. It is not crisis management. They are there to serve consistently. They are there constantly on a regular basis, finding out how the believers are doing. They practically, there is this personal, again, this relationship. The relationship exists that you don't just see them once a week from a pulpit. No, there's this personal thing going on. You have their number, you call them, you meet with them, you find out what is going on. How is this thing, how is the issue going on? It is practical because we live practical lives. We do not just live lives when you go to church. We go to the building for a few hours on a Saturday or a Sunday, and that is not life. Life is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday going down, and Sunday. Continuous, and we need help. The believers need practical assistance in how to deal with the issues that they face, whether it's in their family, whether it's at work, whether it's with a friend, whatever it is. The one-on-one counseling is necessary. They need to know that they are comfortable with their pastor, that they have this relationship, that whatever comes up, they can call because they know that person is there for them. On a Sunday morning or a Saturday morning, no, that is not, you cannot be effective to those who you are called to because you're coming there to speak to the masses. But in the masses, they are individuals, but unfortunately during the gathering, we're just seen as one group of people and not as individuals, and our needs are not met. We're just going to the building just for a while, and then our issues continue on until some explosion happens, until some crisis occurs to try to deal with that. No, that should not be the case of a fivefold pastor or shepherd. There is time allotted. It is about time. The pastor makes time because that is their dominant role in terms of the role of the one-on-one counseling that is necessary with the believer. This is so necessary. Now, we I want to ask you both, how has the role of the fivefold pastor or shepherd, how has it helped you in your own personal development? How has it really been beneficial to you compared to what you experienced before? How has it benefited you in terms of your personal development, the fivefold pastor?
Just as I said before, the close relationship was not there in terms of following up with my concerns, with life issues. It's not, what should I say, not just to deal with grave issues, but simple things, as I said, in terms of doing my studies and, showing that care in terms of what I am doing and how I'm getting along with it and that sort of thing. So yes, beforehand, I never had that real follow-up in terms of how is life? Just ask your question, how is life? How are things with you? That sort of thing. And that in itself would spike a little, discussion, and you would talk about things and you get answers to your questions. You're pointed in the right direction and that sort of thing. So yes, this is what I'm getting now within the fivefold ministry.
Okay, thank you. Kriston?
Yeah, thank you very much, Shepherd Anita. I can agree with Adina in terms of the close contact, the relationship, developing that relationship with my shepherd and being able to trust them and not feeling like everything is a one size fits all. I go on the Sunday and I sit and I'm just hearing a holistic thing. There's, I had started to mention it in terms of simple things, down to your grooming and that type of thing, down to your work ethic. How do you operate at work? And for somebody like me, that would have been coming off of the block and having that block mentality, I would have needed that one-on-one type, training and counseling. And my shepherd, I can say, would have given me that in the fivefold ministry. And it would have been a team effort. I can say that that's the difference with the fivefold pastor, because they're not even just functioning by themselves either. They have the other four to back them up in the different areas that I would need. So that is a major difference. The fivefold shepherd does not operate as a lone wolf. They don't operate on their own.
No.
Yeah, and that makes them more effective to me because I'm experiencing it than the person who has the title of pastor and operates just as the lone wolf, not having any backup. Some cases you need backup. Not all police officers are going to go out there by themselves
Not at all.
to handle certain crimes. You have certain crimes, if he's just talking or giving a warning, fine. But some cases you need backup in. And that's the difference, I would say, with the fivefold pastor, the fivefold shepherd. And for me, it benefited me so much. My mind, my life has been affected in such wonderful ways that I never thought it could have been affected in.
Yeah.
And now I'm on my way to thriving in life.
Yes.
Because I have, the fivefold minister. I don't even just want to say the pastor, the fivefold ministers functioning in my life.
Thank you very much, Kriston, for the analogy you use in terms of the backup, that the fivefold pastor is not there, or the other ministers, they're not there by themselves trying to deal with things by themselves, but they're part of a team who function as one and function effectively, may I say. Because then you have 5 persons, and 5 would be better than 1 in terms of dealing with an assembly, dealing with people, because they each have a different function. And we are speaking about the function of the pastor or the shepherd, whose function is to guard the sheep. And it is so necessary that we understand the role of these servant leaders. We would have mentioned before that the gifts that these ministers are, that they're servants. We spoke before of the fact that they're here to serve the believers, and that indeed is a privilege to know that you have a leader who is a servant, and that is what they're there for. They're there to serve the believers. Now, I too was part of the old structure where there just was a one-fold, where there was a pastor alone operating, and I experienced the lack thereof of not having someone there to be able to walk me through life, walk me through things, through situations. You need assistance, and that service was not available because the servant was not available. And so people go through life. You're in an assembly and you go through life and your needs are not met. You're lacking in things, and there's frustration that would come from that. And people would literally leave. People would fall away because if you don't have somebody leading you, we're talking about Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. You're leading. He lead me beside the still waters. The shepherd, if the shepherd is not there leading, imagine a young believer and you come into an assembly and you don't have somebody there to show you the way to go, to instruct you in life, in what it is that you're dealing with. I'm called as a fivefold shepherd, and I know the ins and the outs of those who I am responsible for, because it's about getting into their lives. You must know what is going on. If I don't know what is going on, how am I able to help you? I must be able to have the time to find out what is going on with you. How are things in this particular situation that we would have spoken about? How are things going? I must be available for them. Again, it is about having time to deal with the issues, because life happens and people want to know that there's somebody who you can go to who is able to assist you, who is able to literally, show you the way, give you the counseling that you need, help you practically, be there for you in life situations. You have someone dying and you want to know that there's somebody there with you through this period. You have, oh my goodness, life. We all know about life and the many different situations that we go through, whether it's good or whether it's bad, positive or negative. You want to know that there is someone there who you can depend on in every situation. The pastors, that is their role for the one-on-one counseling, to be close to the believers. A pastor or a shepherd cannot be afar off. It's not about distance. You must be close to this person. There must be relationship. I mentioned before that the pastor is the one who has the heart of Jesus in terms of being close to the believers. They have the shepherd's heart. And a shepherd, we all are familiar with the role of a shepherd and the sheep. The shepherd is close to the sheep. They look after them. They're with them constantly. They care for them. And that is the role that we are talking about with the fivefold pastor or shepherd. That is the function that we are talking about, the one-on-one counseling that they give to the believers, which is necessary in life, because all of us can acknowledge, we can all testify to the fact that life is not without issues on a regular basis, month to month, day by day, and we deal with issues, and we want to know that there is someone there who is able to assist us. And again, the fivefold pastor is not there by himself or herself as a lone ranger trying to cover everything. No, they have the other four that they would go to, because I would do that, not deal with every situation, because it's not every situation that I come across that I do handle by my own. No, again, I go back to the team and we discuss and see what is God's way, how is the best way to deal with this, and we get God's perspective on the matter and God's solution to the matter. So Kriston and Adina, I'm just inviting you to share your last words here with our listeners for today. Adina?
I just want to say that I really have a passion to see things change, especially in Montserrat.
Yes.
And my prayer is that why we are here on these broadcasts on Sundays is not just for the sake of talking, but we want to see that some of what we are saying or what we are saying are being put into action here on Montserrat. We want to see a change, in the moving away from the one-man pastor to a team where the fivefold pastor would now be able to function fully in the role to which they are called. And if they're not called to this role, that they would find their true function. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you very much, Adina. Kriston?
Yes, thank you very much. I am in total agreement with Adina here. And, I just want to even make a statement that most, the shepherds or the pastors being effective comes more when they actually function in the lives of the believers, not in front of the pulpit. Because for us, we need them in our lives. And I agree with Adina in terms of seeing the change, seeing Ephesians 4:11 being put into practice so that we could actually start making tracks in our lives as believers.
Thank you, Kriston. It is our prayer that today's teaching would have enlightened and empowered you as a believer even further as it pertains to what the true functions of the new breed fivefold pastors or shepherds ought to practically look like for our dispensation of the church age. God is indeed doing a new thing, and He is doing a new thing in the body of Christ. There are so many ministers globally who are embracing the new and would have transitioned from the one-fold models to the new fivefold models being part of the governmental leadership team. We thank God that He has not left Montserrat out of the new that He is doing in the earth. Thank you for tuning in and joining me on the Teach Me to Obey radio broadcast. Adina and Kriston, thank you once again for joining me as we continue to share on the fivefold governmental leadership team. Radio listeners, do enjoy the rest of your Sunday evening, and we invite you to join us again when we return next week, Sunday.
Gotta grow up, gotta get up to spiritual maturity. Cannot linger, no stick figure, that is my priority. Gotta listen to the ones with the high authority. It's the fivefold, yeah, the fivefold to get me where I need to be.